Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special edition show. Thursday night, February 10th, the NBA trade deadline has come and gone. And the biggest trade of the day was one that we talked about on this show several times, and whether it would actually happen or not, and it did. The Philadelphia 76ers acquire James Harden from the Brooklyn Nets, as well as Paul Millsap as a throw-in for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, a 2022 unprotected first-round pick, and a protected 2027 first-round pick. And the Nets will get the Sixers 2022 first-round pick unprotected with the right to defer until 2023, and the 2027 first-round protected 1 through 8. Sources tell ESPN. The 2027 pick would roll over to 2028, protected 1 to 8 again. The pick turns into 2 seconds and $2 million in 2029. So that is a crazy trade. Andre Drummond goes to Brooklyn in the seal too. I think both sides got what they wanted. Ben Simmons and James Harden both wanted out of their respective teams, and they headlined the big trade that happened today. Daryl gets his guy. He gets his baby. Gets James Harden to play with Joel Embiid. And you have those two with Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris and Matthias Thybulle as your potential crunch time 5, which would be something else. And then Brooklyn gets Ben Simmons, who is versatile, and you can play him at different positions. They are a better defensive team with Ben Simmons. Philly, I think, is still a good defensive team, even without Ben Simmons. That's because of the presence of Embiid and Thybulle and Maxey. But Seth Curry is a defensive liability. But I think that the presence of Simmons on Brooklyn can hide that. And Kevin Durant is a darn good defender in his own right. So the crunch time for Brooklyn would be Durant, Kyrie Irving, Simmons, Curry, and maybe LaMarcus Aldridge, I guess. Maybe Nick Claxton plays himself back into a prominent role on this team. So Brooklyn gets a little bit deeper with this trade, I think. And Curry gives them some shooting, and it's also protection in case Joe Harris doesn't come back this season, which looks like to me is a distinct possibility. The Nets 76ers rivalry is all of a sudden among the best rivalries in the NBA now with this trade. If I'm not mistaken, the Nets are playing at Philly like in a week from now or after the All-Star game. I need to see. The Nets are actually playing as we speak against the Wizards on TNT, ironically enough, with a bunch of no-name players on their roster. So, Nets are at the Heat on Saturday. Monday, home against the Kings. Wednesday night on ESPN at the Knicks. Oh, well, it stinks that Kyrie can't play in that game. Maybe Durant. I don't think Durant's going to play. Maybe imagine Ben Simmons' first game as a member of the Brooklyn Nets at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. We'll see about that. And then Wizards at the Nets Thursday night. And then right out of the All-Star break on the 24th on TNT, they host the Celtics again. And then Saturday primetime on the 26th on ABC, they're at the Bucks. And then they are home against the Raptors Monday the 28th. So they're at the 76ers Thursday, March 10th on TNT. That's going to be fun. Ben Simmons back in Philadelphia. Get ready for all the boos. And then I don't think the Sixers play at Brooklyn for the rest of the season, so that's unfortunate. I think they've already played there twice. And so that's just a fun subplot between those two teams, and maybe they see each other in the postseason now. That would be so fun. And then Harden getting heavily booed in Brooklyn. Oh my God. You love for this stuff. All right, trade grades. Let's start with Philly. I'm gonna give them a solid A. They get the best player in the trade, James Harden. I think James Harden is going to be motivated again after being traded again and getting what he wants again. And I think he wants to be motivated to get that contract. And people already clamoring that he's going to get the worst contract in NBA history after he signs an extension inevitably with Philly. And, you would think it'd be with Philly. No way Philly doesn't resign him. But people are already calling that the worst contract in NBA history. Meanwhile, Russell Westbrook's contract's awful. John Wall's contract's awful. There's a lot of other awful contracts in the NBA over the past couple of decades as well. I know they gave up a lot, but they got the best player in a trade, and that's ultimately what matters in a trade. So, good on Philly for pouncing on a guy that wanted to be with their team, and on the flip side, getting rid of a guy that clearly didn't want to be in Philadelphia and Ben Simmons. Brooklyn. I'm going to give Brooklyn a grade of... I'm going to give them a B+. I think they did well in this deal. I think that it's just potential fit issues when it comes to crunch time a little bit with Simmons and where he would play in crunch time, and I'm interested to see the fit with Kyrie. I know Philly gave up a lot, but I'd say B+ for Brooklyn, only because we don't know what those draft picks are going to be down the road. Maybe the 2027 one will be really good, but this one is probably going to be in the late 20s, so that's what's unfortunate for Brooklyn. Meanwhile, all the other assets they traded for James Harden are going to Houston. Like their pick this year, which is going to be in the 20s, going to Houston and such. So, I'm going to change the grade to an A-. I talked myself into an A-. B+ is a little bit disrespectful for a team that I think did well in the deal. So, especially getting a good shooter in Seth Curry and a guy that is versatile defensively in Ben Simmons, who has a lot of upside as a player that we're unsure of whether his heart is in the game and his head is in the game or not. So I'm going to change the grade to an A-. I just talked myself into an A-, and then I gave Philly an A because they got the best player in the trade. I think that the Sixers have to be considered the championship favorites now with those two. The reason why I don't consider Brooklyn one is because New York still has its rules where unvaccinated players can't play in their home buildings. So that's why they're not the favorites in my mind. And it's just of how great Embiid's been this year. He's been more healthy this season than Kevin Durant. So I consider Philly the favorites to win the championship, then Milwaukee, and then I'd say Brooklyn, Miami in terms of teams from the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, the James Harden trade, and we'll see how this all plays out. Some other trades that happened today before the James Harden trade. 4-team deal. The Kings acquiring Milwaukee's Dante DiVincenzo in a 4-team trade. Marvin Bagley to Detroit. The Bucks get Serge Ibaka, which I think is fantastic. Josh Jackson and Trey Lyles to the Kings. And the Pistons will send out multiple second-round picks among the teams in the trade. I I love this deal for the Bucks. This is insurance in case Brook Lopez doesn't come back. I think Ibaka would be great on this team. He'll be playing center for them. This trade actually tells me that they must think that he's not coming back, Brook Lopez. So I really like Serge Ibaka on Brooklyn. On Milwaukee. I thought he was going to end up on Brooklyn. That's why I have Brooklyn in my head. And the reason why I thought he was going to end up on Brooklyn is because he's buddies with Durant. But he ends up on Milwaukee. I love it for them. And the Bucks give up a key piece in DiVincenzo, who goes to Sacramento on that new-looking team with Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis and Harrison Barnes. So Sacramento built themselves a nice little team, and maybe they can potentially sneak into the last play-in tournament spot because they're up there with New Orleans and the Spurs for that last spot. So you can't count out Sacramento, as dumb as they were to trade Tyrese Halliburton, as I mentioned on the emergency show the other day. Marvin Bagley to the Detroit part of this deal. I like it for them. Change of scenery for Bagley, who has not lived up to expectations. I think the Kings thought what Evan Mobley is on Cleveland is what they were going to get with Bagley. And ultimately that didn't come into fruition, unlike Mobley on Cleveland, who it did come into fruition for him. And now Bagley goes to Detroit on a team with Jeremy Grant on it that he can just rebuild some value, and we'll see how he does. So I like that for Detroit. And then the other team in this deal is the Clippers, who get Semi Ojeleye and Rodney Hood in this trade. So 2 role players for them. I like Rodney Hood. He's a good catch-and-shoot guy. Ojeleye, solid rotation player, can get minutes off the bench. So the Clippers get a little depth back after trading some depth in that Covington-Powell deal. So the fact that the Clippers didn't trade Covington today makes me think my theory's correct, that they think that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are coming back this year. Then why did I trade for Covington then? They have to think that they're coming back. I think they're coming back, and they're just keeping it a big secret from everybody. And in terms of grades for this deal, I liked it the most for Milwaukee, getting Ibaka. I'm going to give them an A, because it gives them insurance for Lopez, who they might not think is coming back. Similar to Brooklyn getting Seth Curry in the Harden trade. Pistons, I actually like it for the trade. I'm going to give them a B+ for taking a flyer on a guy that I think can use a change of scenery. DiVincenzo can replace some of what Buddy Hield can do for Sacramento. I like it for them, too. I give them a B+. And then the Clippers, I'm going to give them a C+. I think they could have done better in terms of role players in that deal. So, big trade with the Spurs, who acquired Goran Dragic, but they are doing a buyout with him. Among the interested teams, Dallas, Milwaukee, Chicago, Clippers. Again, the Clippers, they have to think that those guys are coming back. And everyone's been saying Dallas for Dragic forever, so it feels like that's where he's going to end up. And then here, the Celtics traded P.J. Dozier and Bol Bol, a future second rounder, in cash for the Magic for a future second rounder. So a cost savings deal for Boston. We talked about the big one already. An interesting one is that the Celtics traded for Derek White from San Antonio, as going back to San Antonio, Josh Richardson, who really hasn't been a that great of a player since he was in Miami several years ago. And I like Derek White. He's shown so many flashes with the Spurs, and now he goes to a team in the Celtics. He can come in and be their point guard and play with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and whatever else they have. An interesting trade by the Pacers. Tori Craig goes to Phoenix for Jalen Smith and a future second-round pick. I like the deal for both teams. Tori Craig, a rotation piece for the Suns who could come off the bench and hit threes. And Jalen Smith, who was a lottery bust for Phoenix, changed the scenery to Indiana. Some grades. Celtics, Derek White, I'm going to give that a B. Josh Richardson, San Antonio, C+. The Celtics, the cost savings trade, I'm not going to grade. The Pacers Suns deal, the Suns for Tori Craig, I'm going to give them a solid B. And then the Pacers, in that trade, I'm going to give them a B too. So here's a fun one. Charlotte acquires Montrezl Harrell for Vernon Carey and Ish Smith of the Wizards. I absolutely love that trade for Charlotte. They needed a big man. And I give Charlotte an A. They finally get a quality starting center. And Washington didn't get much for him. I'd give that a C as a return. But the Mavericks trade Kristaps Porzingis to the Washington Wizards for Spencer Dinwiddie, Davis Bertans, and a second-round pick. A second-round pick went to the Wizards, so they had to package Porzingis with a second-round pick. Wow, so that was a failed trade by Dallas. Now looking back for Porzingis from the Knicks. And I love this deal for Washington. I think Porzingis and Beal would be a nice combo, but Beal's out for the year, and Beal probably played his final game as a Wizard, so Porzingis is going to be the man in D.C., potentially, for the rest of the season. I'm interested to see how he plays. And I wonder if Washington goes to the Knicks at all for the rest of the season, because when the Wiz went there, when Dallas went there, Porzingis, Friday, March 18th, here we go. Porzingis back in the Garden. So that's a fun one. And then for Dallas, they get their point guard in Dinwiddie. And then Bertans is shooting big from the outside. So I think they did okay here. I really do think they did pretty good here. I'm going to give the Mavs in this trade a B, and I'm going to give Washington a B+, because I just feel that Porzingis is the best player in this trade. Daniel Tice goes from Houston to Boston. So Celtics get deep in terms of big men. And then Dennis Schroeder, Enes Freedom, and Bruno Fernando go in that deal. So Boston's shedding some depth there. And Enes Freedom is now a buyout guy. So, very interesting day in the association. And Now I'm going to go over some trades in terms of grades. Let's start in the Atlantic Division. Well, we're gonna go with winners and losers, not really grades. So the winners in the Atlantic Division, Philly and Brooklyn, of course. Philly and Brooklyn. They both, I think, made their teams better in different ways. So for me, they are winners, and then the losers in that division, Knicks, Celtics, and Raptors. Knicks didn't make a move. They still have the same team that's underperformed all season and didn't make it better. The Raptors did not take advantage of a wide openish sort of East in a way that Philly and Brooklyn kind of did in a way. And we heard all this buzz about Toronto and they didn't really do anything. So for me, they're a loser. And then Boston to me is a loser because they traded some depth away and I don't think they made their team better. The Central Division. The Detroit Pistons for me, weird saying this, but I'm going to consider them a winner. I really like the Marvin Bagley pickup for them. I think that it's a good tryout thing for that team. The Indiana Pacers are a big winner getting Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, come on. You got to call them a winner. The Bucks, to me, are a winner because they got Serge Ibaka. The Cavaliers, I'm going to call them a winner for now because they got Karis LeVert. And I think that he'll help that team more than hurt them. And there's one loser in this division. And it's not their fault by any stretch of the imagination. They've had a ton of injuries and such. The Chicago Bulls. They just, I thought they had to make a move and they didn't. But they're just banking on guys to come back. Like the Knicks are banking on Derrick Rose to come back as well. I should have brought that up earlier when I was talking about them. The Southeast Division, winners, Charlotte. They finally got a big man. That's good. And Montrezl Harrell. The Wizards. I love the Porzingis pickup for them. Maybe they can ship him again if they decide to blow it up and rebuild and trade Bradley Beal. And if Porzingis is awesome for them the next couple months, they can spin him again into something as crazy as that sounds. Losers, the Atlanta Hawks. They didn't trade John Collins. They didn't make any moves to make their team better. The Miami Heat, only because they didn't make any moves of significance. But they're just banking on their core being healthy and Kyle Lowry being the Kyle Lowry that carried the Raptors, or helped carry the Raptors to a championship in 2019. So for me, the Heat are losers because they didn't make any moves of significance, but arguably not their fault. And loser Orlando Magic because they had assets to trade, they didn't trade. Western Conference, Southwest Division, this is a tough one because nobody really stood out to me here. But I guess I'll give a W to the Pelicans for getting McCollum. And they're in the mix. I like Nance for them too. Once he comes back, I think he'll help them. So I'll give the Pelicans a win. I'm going to give the Memphis Grizzlies a win too, only because I felt that they didn't mess with their depth. So I really like that for them. Losers, the Spurs. I like Derek White a lot. And to me, Josh Richardson's not the same player as he was several years ago. The Dallas Mavericks, I just don't think they really made their team all that much better. And to me, the goal for them is to build the best team around Luka that's possible. And I think they could have gotten more for Porzingis today. So I see them as a loser. And then the Rockets, they didn't trade Eric Gordon. That's a loser. And then the Northwest Division. I'm going to give the Portland Trailblazers a win here. I think that they did well in the trades that they've made. Getting some young players and picks back and spinning them into other different things. Like Josh Hart and whatnot. I love what the Jazz did. To me, the Jazz are a winner getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I think will be a really good above-average role player for them. And I think he could be a glue guy in the postseason as well. And I have 3 losers in this division. Oklahoma City Thunder. I know getting KZ Okpalka was a move they made, but they had guys that I felt that could have been moved at the trade deadline that they just didn't mess with. Minnesota's a loser for me. I think that they had a chance to improve their team. They didn't. And the Nuggets, to me, are a loser because I just think that they needed like another combo forward to go with Aaron Gordon and make up for the loss of Michael Porter Jr. And the Pacific Division, Clippers winner. But part of this comes with an asterisk, only because the trades for Powell and Covington and the 2 role players that I alluded to earlier would make sense if their 2 stars were coming back this season, especially on the expiring contract with Covington. So, asterisk winners, Clippers. Suns, I like to pick up a Tori Craig for them, but they didn't really have to do that much tinkering, so I kind of like that for Phoenix from a depth standpoint. Golden State, because they didn't overpay for anybody of significance, and I respect that they like what they have with Clay back and Draymond bouncing back this season. And the loser of this division, no doubt about it, the Los Angeles Lakers did not improve their team at the trade deadline. After a lot of rumors, there was a rumored Wall Westbrook trade again that they denied because they wanted a pick or something, which is stupid. If anything, there probably should have been a pick swap there. So the Lakers, I guess, shift to the buyout market. You have some good buyout guys like Enes Kanter's available, and it's freedom. I mean, so I guess I'll go there. But so where things stand right now, their team had not improved. And then the ultimate wild card, I'm going to say to be determined, the Sacramento Kings. This is because as much as I hated them getting rid of Tyrese Halliburton, I do love Sabonis as a player. I do like Dante DiVincenzo, and I think those 2, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, and Rashawn Holmes, would be a good crunch time 5 for them to close out games to the point where I wouldn't be shocked if they made the play-in tournament. So I really don't want to hand them an L because they traded a potential franchise player away and Tyrese Halliburton. Maybe it'll be an L down the road, but for this season, and for right now, I'm going to call it the to be determined. Because this could ultimately flip to a win if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't become the player that we think he's going to be. He's not an all-star player, and Domantas Sabonis is still making all-stars in the West, and the Kings are all of a sudden relevant in the West in a way that we wouldn't expect. So to me, the Kings are the to-be-determined team. There's a couple to-be-determineds in the East, but I probably just called them losers because of reasons that they shouldn't really be reasons for them to be losers. So, so that's it for the trade deadline special show. I'll be back with my normal show tomorrow morning. So I hope you guys have a great night, everyone.